Hey, this is Sean Kanan from Studio City on Amazon Prime. I'm sitting here with Elias on the Man Cave. Check it out.
Welcome to another episode of the Man Cave Chronicles.
Welcome to the party, pal!
You're my boy, Blue!
Yo, AJ!
A podcast with interviews of amazing guests from the world of pop culture.
Oh, yeah!
TV.
Nice!
Movies.
Oh, I love the movies!
Comedy and more. From deep inside the Man Cave, your host, Elias.
Sean, welcome to the cave.
Hey, man, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be with you.
How are you, man? What's new with you?
What's new with me? Well, look, I mean, like everybody, we're all dealing with coronavirus. I don't want to be a downer or anything, but life is pretty curtailed by that. Trying to do the best that we can to get things done. We just had the Daytime Emmys just had their virtual show for digital dramas. My new show, Studio City, was nominated for 8. We did win 1, which was Tristan Rogers for Best Supporting Actor. So that just happened, and that was kind of exciting. And, we're talking about what we're going to be doing for season 2. And, trying my best to avoid the refrigerator and not go insane.
There you go, man. So, yeah, man, you've been busy for a few years now. You've done acting, producing. You've written a book. You've played around with stand-up comedy. You've been busy, man.
Yeah, I like to have my I like to have my finger in different pies. I mean, I think each of those things for me kind of satisfies something differently. Stand-up comedy is something that I've done off and on since I was 15. You got that live audience. It's that immediate reciprocity. Writing is like very solitary and monastic, but it's really fulfilling when you finish a book and you see the completed book. And you mentioned my book. It's called Success Factor X. It's the second book that I've worked on, and we were actually rated one of the 20 most inspirational books of the last 2 decades by Book Authority, and we became an Amazon new release bestseller 10 days after it came out. So that was I'll take a second to tell you about that project because it was really cool. My partner Jill Lieberman and I went out to 50 exceptional individuals in all different fields, and we said, what's your best advice about success? And so we got an amazing response. We got Anthony Robbins, Mark Cuban, Sarah Blakely, the first female billionaire, Darryl McDaniel, the founding member of Run DMC, Larry Walker, Hall of Fame baseball player, all these different, lots of actors, really, really crazy. And the book looks like a coffee table book, and then everyone gave us these organic submissions about incredible advice, incredible inspiration. I think now more than ever, with everything that's going on, people could use something to kind of keep a fire lit, because it seems like everything else is trying to conspire against us.
How did you come up with the idea for this book?
So my partner Jill Lieberman created a book almost 20 years ago called American Pride, and it was a book where celebrities, sports figures, etc., politicians, they gave their they gave some of their thoughts on America, and it was a beautiful coffee table book. And she called me out of the blue a couple years ago to wish me happy birthday, and I was in kind of a contemplative mood, and I said, I had this idea for something. Do you want to hear it? She said, yeah. And I pitched her the idea for this new book. And by the time we hung up, we were writing partners. And that began this year-long odyssey of, reaching out to all of these people, working really hard to get them to say yes, then getting them to submit their words of wisdom for the book, and then taking all of that and putting it together and getting it published into a book. And it was a really amazing experience, interacting with all of these exceptional individuals. And they're all successful. They've all got money. They've all got all the trappings of success, but they're in different fields. But when you listen to them speak, there's a lot of common denominators. So you can see how they used a lot of the same strategies to get to the top of their specific profession, whether it's, a guy like Larry Walker, who is a batting champion, or, Anthony Robbins, who we all know who Anthony Robbins is.
Yeah.
Or I'm in it as well as an actor. I talk about a lot of the things that I did that helped me, achieve some of what I've achieved. And I remember my acting teacher. His name was Roy London, the late Roy London, very well-known acting teacher. And he said, I have more in common with a successful plumber than I do with an unsuccessful acting coach.
Wow.
Just think about that for a minute. That sounds kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
But when you think about it, probably many of the very same things that it takes to build a successful plumbing business, and the very same things that it takes to build a successful acting coaching business, you employ a lot of the same strategies, taking different paths up the same hill to success. And when you start seeing these people in different fields using a lot of the same strategies, you start seeing common denominators and patterns and say, maybe there's something to that. So what are a couple of the things that these people said? Well, one of them was really interesting. None of these people talked about their success in terms of, how many cars I have, how many houses I have, yada, yada. It was largely about living their most authentic life, kind of to thine own self be true, doing what makes you happy. And success generally comes if you're doing your best at what you're happy. But they also said, it's really also about helping other people, achieve their greatness.
Yeah.
And in doing that without any kind of ulterior motive, somehow things start working out well for you too. I don't know why, but I think it's a law of the universe. I really do. I know for myself that I really try as best I can to, help other people, especially young actors, young, entertainers, and talk to them. And it just comes back to you. And I think that's true.
You mentioned that you talk to young actors. Like, what's like some of the advice that you give to them?
Okay, well, when I started acting, there was no internet. Okay.
Yeah.
And the reason that's important, first of all, if you're in a small town, like I grew up in Newcastle, Pennsylvania, small town, right? I mean, there really wasn't any acting class there for me. I guess I could have gone to like a local college and maybe found one, but now if you want to embark in a career in acting, there are so many resources online that if you're in Timbuktu, you can access, right? The next thing is with social media, there are so many opportunities to create product for yourself. And by that, I mean, generally everybody wants to see what you look like on, we used to say on tape, you know what I mean? They want to be able to watch you do something and engage how you look on camera, what your talent level is, etc. And now with a smartphone and the ability to upload something to even a website or even, your own website or I don't know, any of the platforms, you can then reference somebody who might be an agent or a casting director or something and say, hey, listen, go to this link and you can at least take a look at me doing a scene with a friend. So there are all these other options to get seen early on in a career that didn't exist when I started.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you're only a few years older than me, so yeah, like.
Was I starting to sound like the old guy going, you kids, get off my grass?
Yeah, I'm 43, so I remember the days of no internet.
I'm 53.
So, man, yeah. So, let's talk a little about Studio City, man. Like, how did you, come up with that idea?
So Studio City is a show that I've been working on putting together for a long, long time. My wife and I have been together for 10 years, and I was working on it before we had even met. I wanted to, they say write what you know best. And I mean, I've worked in daytime television off and on for 30 years, and I wanted to create a show about a guy that starred on a soap opera, but show all of the stuff in his life that really is very similar to a lot of the other drama that everybody deals with. From the outside, my character, Sam Stevens, looks like this guy that you think makes a lot of money. He's on a TV show, works with beautiful women, da 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 da. But then you start peeling the onion back, and you realize that he's no longer the young buck on the show. He's an older guy in the middle of contract negotiations, and they bring a younger, kind of better looking version of him on to nip at his heels. He's got a gold digging girlfriend. He's got a psychotic mother, and he's got an overbearing boss, and it's all the craziness that goes on in the show, within the show, and in his outside life. And one of the things that we do in the show, though, it's a short form digital series. There's 6 episodes that are between 10 and 15 minutes each. We deal with a lot of really pertinent social issues. We deal with Me Too. We have an LGBTQ storyline that we're actually really proud of because our show actually made history. Scott Turner Schofield is the first trans man to ever be nominated for an Emmy, and our show is the first show to ever have a trans man nominated for it. So we also deal with ageism and suicide and a lot of other stuff, but we do it in a way that we're not beating you over the head because it's not a downer. The show's actually really funny.
Yeah.
It's just, and through the right series of connections, I was able to get this made. I had done 2 films for a guy whose name is Timothy Woodward Jr. He's a film director and producer. I did a film called Gangsterland with Jason Patrick, and then I did a film, which actually I think it just came out on Showtime last month. It's called Beyond the Law with Steven Seagal and DMX. And I went to talk to Tim and say, hey, listen, I would like to work together again. We started talking, and we got on the subject of television and then on the subject of digital television. And I said, I think I have something that you might like. It's not written for digital television, but, I think we could, we could dissect it and use it for that. He goes, look, I'll read it. If I like it, I'll make it. And I was like, you hear that all the time. And you don't hear that all the time in Hollywood, but you hear it a lot. But I knew Tim, and I know he's a straight shooter. And to his credit, he put his money where his mouth was. He said, I like it. And we were filming 8 weeks later.
Wow.
And it's been absolutely incredible. My wife is one of the producers. She is also one of the writers. She was nominated for an Emmy along with me for writing. She won the Indie Series Award for writing. So it's really great that I get to work with my partner in crime in life, and work with her on a show that it's been my dream to make for a long time. I always. So often when you see soap operas portrayed in the media and you see people acting on what's supposed to be a soap opera within a film or another TV show, they do this like hyper dramatic, over the top acting, almost like they're winking at the camera going, we know we're in a soap opera, so we have to show you that it's not good acting. And the reality is some of the very best actors I've ever worked with are on soap operas. I wanted to create a project that showed daytime in a much more realistic light. And, the kids seem to like it. It's on Amazon Prime. You can binge watch the whole first season in about an hour and a half.
Yeah, I watched it the other night. I thought it was funny. Some of the stories, I got to think, so did you how many years were you in the soap opera business?
Well, I started about 1992 on General Hospital. Stayed on that show till about 97, left, went did some other stuff.
Yeah.
In 2000, I don't know. I think in 99, I did this show called Sunset Beach for a while. Then I started Bold and the Beautiful in 2001, and that's been 2001 off and on through 2016. And then I actually came back to General Hospital in 2015 for a year for the show's 50th anniversary. So, I've had a very long relationship with daytime television. And like I said, write what you know. So I wanted to write something that, I'd really lived the experience. I mean, nobody's going to tell me what it's like to be, an actor on a soap opera because I've lived it intimately.
Mm. So when you were writing this, were you trying to think things that happened to you or to other cast members that you saw that you kind of put into the story?
Yeah, I think some of it was like an amalgamation. I mean, the character of Gloria, who is the executive producer of the show within a show, which is called Hearts on Fire, is, she just seems like a dragon lady. But you realize that, that's because she's dealing with, a lot of her own issues, and she's not really this horrible person. But, that was kind of I worked for a few producers on certain soap operas, and I drew from those. I drew from those people that I knew. Some of the infighting and stuff like that goes on, behind the scenes, that happens sometimes. It's not the norm, because, you can't slow down production. And if you're having an interpersonal issue with another actor and it gets in the way, you get fired. So, but there are little bits and pieces of my experience from the 30 years that I, infused into the show.
How close is the character that you play on the show, resembles you?
I think Sam Stevens is actually very close to me. I mean, I think maybe I'm a little bit more evolved. I think Sam's a guy who's still figuring some things out, but he's a guy that always thought that he should have kind of had a bigger career in his mind, an action star. And without ruining the surprise, at the end of the first episode, his life is completely turned upside down by somebody who shows up that he never knew existed. But, I wanted the show to succeed with me playing the closest version of who I am.
Yeah.
And bring the most honesty that I could. And if it didn't succeed on that, but I did bring as much of myself as possible, I felt that I could accept that.
So when you went when I was watching the show and everything, I noticed that you brought some people that you've worked with before, soap stars. How did you pitch that idea to them to come on and do the project with you?
Well, my wife had, with Carolyn Hennessy, she and I worked on General Hospital together, and then my wife, who wrote and directed a short film, Carolyn acted in that with me, and so we knew her really well. Patrika Darbo plays my mother. I have lost count of how many times we've worked together. The first time we worked together was on a show called Step by Step years ago, decades ago, and we've done movies since and all this. And Tristan Rogers and I were on General Hospital and Young and the Restless together, and we're good friends, actually. Sarah Brown and I worked together on General Hospital. So we contacted people that, we knew, and they really responded to the material. We did a read through of the original pilot, which changed dramatically, but the characters were very similar, and everybody was really into it. They knew that we kind of had something special there, and they wanted to get on board. And to their credit, they jumped in both feet, committed, and without our amazing cast, we wouldn't be having the success we're having.
So the first season was 6 episodes. What's your goal for season 2?
Well, for season 2, my goal is that I would like to do 8 to 10 episodes, 22 minutes each. Which would be basically like a 30-minute show without commercial. Or even longer, maybe a 22 to 30-minute show. We're in talks right now with several potential buyers for the show. Obviously with coronavirus, it's making it more difficult, but, it's taken me, 12, 13 years to get this thing made. And, I'm not going to stop. I mean, I'm going to get this thing, I'm going to get a season 2 out there. Yeah. I'm not sure when we're going to go back into production. My hope is that we would go back into production maybe around November, and that would be great. So that's what we're working on right now.
You got to do a season 2 because you sound so excited about this project. You just got to keep doing it.
Yeah, no, I'm really enthusiastic about it. Yeah, no, we're going to keep doing it, man. I promise.
Have you started coming up with ideas and writing it?
We haven't started writing it, but we have a lot of ideas. We have a really terrific writing team, and we write quickly. So I know that, we could knock out the entire season in probably a month. And so we would just kind of lock ourselves in a writing room for a month and write the whole thing. Right now, what I'm trying to do is to actually get it set up somewhere. So, we figure out how it's going to be financed and what it's going to look like.
Yeah. How did you get it on Amazon? Did they approach you?
No, Amazon didn't approach us actually. My partner Tim Woodward Jr., who I told you he directed all the episodes, by the way. He had an existing relationship with Amazon, and he was very instrumental in us getting it on there.
When do you think like your goal is to try to even like start doing all this? After like, are you waiting till like 2021 to start doing that?
No, I mean, like I said, I'd like to be back in production this fall.
Yeah.
So I mean, once if we can conclude a deal with buyers quickly, maybe in the next 60 days, like I said, we could be, back in production, assuming that production is allowed. But some of the shows are slowly coming back into production right now. So yeah, that's the goal.
Right. And we mentioned earlier, like you said, you mentioned you did a few soap operas. Like, I was asked to ask you this question: favorite character that you played in the soap world, and why?
The favorite character I played in the soap world was Deacon Sharpe on The Bold and the Beautiful and Young and the Restless. I'm the only actor that's ever played that character. I think the character is a really interesting, edgy anti-hero. He started off a really, really bad guy and slowly became less of a bad guy and a little more of a human being. And I've gotten to play him off and on since 2001, and it's just something very special for me.
Would you ever go back to the soap world, do you think?
I would consider going back. I would consider going back to Bold and the Beautiful. It's a lot of fun working on that show. It's only half an hour. It moves really quickly. The show is syndicated in like 47 other countries, and so it has afforded me the opportunity to do some really interesting, fun, cool stuff as a result of being on Bold and the Beautiful. It's very big in Italy, so I wound up doing a film in Italy, and I wound up doing Dancing with the Stars in Italy. I've lived over there off and on for a year. Yeah, I mean, I speak Italian, so it's had a major influence on my life.
What's next for you? Any other projects or films that you have coming out?
Well, unfortunately, there's just nothing.
Because of all this, I know.
I mean, it's just there's nothing. So for me right now, my big thing is getting the next season of Studio City set up. That's it. 100%. That's my deal right now.
Let's talk a little about Karate Kid 3 and Cobra Kai.
Okay.
What's your thoughts on Cobra Kai?
And
it's on Netflix now too.
I think it's genius. I think it's an amazing take on the original Kanan material. I'm very happy for Marty Cove and Billy Zabka and Ralph Macchio. I just think the writer producers of the show have done a phenomenal job. These guys come from a comedy background, having done Harold and Kumar, and so there's a whole level of comedy I think that's infused in the shows that really wasn't in the original films. It wasn't in the original films, and it's just made it really interesting and fun for a whole new generation.
Yeah. Has there been any talks about Mike Barnes showing up or what?
Well, there's been a lot of talk from fans.
Yeah.
The producers are really great guys. I've communicated with them multiple times, and they're fans of the original films, and I think they'd like to bring as many of the characters back as they can. I think they want to do it organically, though.
Yeah.
And so, like I always say, if the time comes when they want me to dust off the Cobra Kai gi, I'd love to do it. I would love to see what became of Mike Barnes.
If you have any input, what would you like Mike Barnes to be?
No, I think it would be really interesting if this guy, was able to straighten his life out. Maybe he went into the military. Maybe he went to Iraq and Afghanistan, and he became an officer, and grew out of being that obnoxious, intimidating 17-year-old into an interesting man. Or I could see him going the other way, where it went from bad to worse, and he went to prison and is just a really bad guy.
Yeah. What do you think of the way they portrayed Zabka's character now?
Oh, I love it. I think it's genius. That Billy was maybe the one that was, the bullied, and I love how Billy's so dry and acerbic, and it's great.
How old were you when you got the role for Karate Kid 3?
Let's see, I got it in '89. I was 23, I think, 22 or 23.
Was that your first big role?
That was far and away the biggest. Yeah, I had done a couple episodes of network television, but yeah, this was the third installment of a highly successful international franchise. I was playing one of the lead characters, so yeah, it was a big deal at the time, and it's proven to be a huge deal in my career, but also my life. I mean, it's crazy that 30 some years later, people are still talking about this movie. They're still in characters. So for me, it's just been a really amazing thing.
Yeah. So, what was your feelings for Karate Kid 3? Because there's 3 of them, of course, and the third one wasn't getting as much love as the other ones. But for me, I loved the third one.
I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. I know that John Avildsen did not like it, and Ralph didn't like it either. I think there were some problems with the story. I mean, it was confusing with the character of Jessica that was not a love interest, and then she just kind of disappears halfway through the film. I think I don't know. I think that it was not bad, but I think it would have worked better if that was actually the second installment instead of the third. That might have worked better. But look, it gets played all the time. People enjoy it. I couldn't be more grateful to have been a part of it. I think there's some script issues. Yes, but it's water under the bridge at this point.
Yeah, and I'm sure you get asked all the time for Karate Kid 3.
Asked about it. I do. Yeah.
Do you? I know you've done a few signings and stuff like that. Do you enjoy doing those with the Karate Kid gang?
I do. I really like. The Karate Kid fans are so cool. I mean, other than soap opera fans who are so loyal, Karate Kid, specifically Cobra Kai fans, are not just of the series Cobra Kai, but fans of the members of the Cobra Kai. They're really, really fun people. They get into it. They love it. It's fun to see guys my age that get really excited about it, especially if they've got kids. We talk about they're introducing their kid to a part of the nostalgia from there. Yeah, so it's I love it.
Yeah. I'm trying to get my daughter to sign up for martial arts. I know you've done martial arts and everything, but it's only because of we grew up watching these movies.
Yeah, well, listen, I think martial arts has been a very important part of my life. It's been one of the most important things in my life, I think, and I think if your daughter wanted to get into it, it's an incredible thing.
One more question about Karate Kid. You got hurt on set, right?
I did. Yeah.
What happened?
Well, we'd been shooting for about 2 weeks, and we broke for Christmas, and I started having some pain in my left thigh. Thought it was from all the karate that I was doing, so I started taking aspirin. What it turned out to be, I found out in Las Vegas, because while everyone else was preparing for Christmas, I was in the emergency room in Vegas fighting for my life on Christmas Day. I had ruptured something internally. The blood was dripping down on my femoral artery, and the aspirin had exacerbated the bleeding. And, they said, look, we got to take you to surgery, and we don't know if we can save your life. And I was like, what do you mean you can't save my life? I'm 20 years old. I'm doing a martial arts movie. And they said, you have lost a lot of blood. So long story short, they took me in, and, they took me into surgery 15 minutes later. And I said, before they put me under, look, if you can not resect, if you can resect the abdominal muscles instead of cutting them, please do that. Because I knew if they cut my abdominal muscles, I'd be out of the movie because it would take too long to heal. So they were able to resect the muscles. And again, long story short, I had myself discharged from the hospital against medical advice. I started training, doing everything I could to rehabilitate myself, and I wound up doing all of my stunts in the film, with the exception of one, which is where Mike and his buddies go across train tracks as a speeding train is coming along. As I said, there's no way I'm doing that. But I wound up doing all that stuff.
How long were you like out of the film for like how long before film started picking up again?
I don't know. I mean, it probably broke for like 10 days.
Okay.
And maybe 2 weeks. I mean, not a lot of time. I mean, I had lost 30 pounds.
Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I almost died. I mean, I had to wait to heal a little bit before I could start doing anything physical because I had staples all up and down my abdomen. But, as soon as I could, I started, I got back in the gym, and it was really frustrating and difficult in the beginning. I couldn't do hardly anything. And, it was really difficult having to rehearse the martial arts scenes with, this fresh wound. And, it would bleed sometimes. And it was intense.
So, Sean, we mentioned that you can find your show on Amazon. How can the listeners find you on social media?
So they can follow me on Twitter at Sean Kanan, or on Instagram. I think it's Sean.Kanan. And, I really try and do my best to respond to everybody. And it's a great way to keep up with what I'm doing and what I've got coming out. And, like I said, I love hearing from the fans.
Sean, this was fun. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, man, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Hope we get a chance to see each other again sometime.
That's a wrap. That's a wrap, everybody. That's a wrap.
Thanks for listening to the Man Cave Chronicles podcast.
I finally get my man cave.
You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at the MCC Podcast, and our website, themccpodcast.com. Until next time.